Well now, darling, come pull up a chair and let me tell you about something that'll make your jaw drop. You know how sometimes we think we know what God has in store for us. Then He goes and does something so unexpected that we just have to sit back and say, "Well, I'll be." It's a story about a little girl who went from a dusty cabin with a dirt floor to being one of the richest folks in the whole country. And no, this ain't no fairy tale. This is the honest-to-goodness truth about a little girl named Sarah Rector. Now picture this. It's the early 1900s, deep in Oklahoma territory. Sarah was just a little thing, born in 1902 to a family of Creek freedmen. That means her people had been enslaved by the Creek Nation before the Civil War. After the war, they were made citizens of the Creek Nation, and that came with a piece of land. But honey, don't you go thinking that was some grand prize. The land they gave to the freedmen, especially the children, was often the rockiest, most useless land you ever did see. Land so poor, you couldn't grow a weed on it. Sarah's little patch was no different. It was just rocks and dirt, nothing more. Her family was poor, truly poor. They lived in a 2-room log cabin. Life was hard. Sarah walked barefoot to a 1-room schoolhouse when she could. Her daddy, Joseph, had to lease out her land to an oil company, just to pay the taxes on it. The taxes were $30 a year, a fortune back then for folks like them. He figured, well, at least we can get something from this useless ground. He had no idea what was brewing underneath. Then in 1913, everything changed. That oil company, well, they struck it. And I don't mean a little trickle. I mean a gusher, a massive oil well they called the Cromwell Franklin, right on little Sarah Rector's land. Suddenly, that worthless piece of rock was pumping out over 2,500 barrels of oil every single day. Can you imagine? Little 11-year-old Sarah started making $300 a day. A day. That was more than the President of the United States was making back then. The newspapers got a hold of the story and went wild. They called her the richest colored girl in the world. Suddenly, this little girl from a cabin in Oklahoma was famous. And with fame and money comes trouble. You can believe that. All sorts of folks started crawling out of the woodwork. People from all over the world started writing her letters. Some asking for money, others offering to marry her. Mind you, she was still just a child. The Oklahoma legislature even tried to declare her white so she could enjoy the same privileges. Can you believe the nerve? They wanted her money, but they couldn't stand to see it in the hands of a little black girl. Because she was a child, and because she was black, the law said she needed a white guardian to manage her money. So the court appointed this man, T.J. Porter, to look after her affairs. Now, this is where it gets real tricky. You got all this money pouring in, and you got a child who doesn't understand it, and a family that's never seen nothing like it. The newspapers started printing all sorts of nonsense. They said she was living in rags, uneducated, and her white guardian was cheating her blind. Well, that talk reached the ears of some good people. Folks like W.E.B. Du Bois and the NAACP, they got involved. They started making noise, saying someone needed to protect this child and her fortune. They didn't want to see her taken advantage of. It put pressure on the government, on everybody, to make sure Sarah was being treated right. And you know what? Sarah was a smart little girl. She wasn't just sitting back. As she got older, she started to understand what was going on. She wasn't going to let nobody run all over her. She moved with her family from that dusty cabin to a fine modern house in Muskogee. She started going to a better school, the Tuskegee Institute's children's school in Alabama. And later she attended Tuskegee Institute itself. She was getting a real education. By the time she was 18, Sarah was a millionaire. Her fortune was worth over $1 million, which today would be, I don't know, a whole heap more. We're talking tens of millions, and she wasn't a little girl anymore. She was a young woman, ready to take control of her own life and her own money. She and her family moved to Kansas City, Missouri. And what a life she led. She bought a grand stone house on 12th Street, a place that became known as the Rector Mansion. It was beautiful. She had fancy cars, diamonds, clothes. She enjoyed her money, and why shouldn't she? She deserved it. She threw lavish parties, entertained folks like Count Basie and Duke Ellington. She was living the high life, a real queen in her own right. She married a man named Kenneth Campbell, and they had 3 sons. She invested her money, too. She owned stocks, bonds, a boarding house, a restaurant, and acres of land. She wasn't just spending it. She was making it grow. She was a savvy businesswoman, that girl. She proved everybody wrong who thought she was just some ignorant child who had get cheated out of her fortune. But child life ain't all sunshine, even when you're rich. The Great Depression hit her fortune hard, just like it hit everyone else. And her marriage, well, it didn't last forever. But Sarah, she was a survivor. She always was. Even when the money wasn't flowing like it used to, she still had her properties, her investments. She wasn't that little girl in a dusty cabin anymore. She had seen the world. She lived a long, full life. She moved back to Oklahoma in her later years, living a much quieter life than she did in her youth. She passed away in 1967, at the age of 65. And when she died, she was still holding on to some of her oil wells, still getting that income from the land they said was worthless. Now, why do I tell you this story, child? Because it's important. It's a story about luck, yes. But it's also a story about resilience. It's about a little black girl who was given the worst of the worst, and it turned out to be the best of the best. It's a story about how, even when the world is trying to count you out, trying to take what's yours, you can stand up, get smart, and take control of your own destiny. Sarah Rector's story is a part of our history that not enough folks know. It's a reminder of the strange and sometimes wonderful ways life can turn. From a dirt-poor cabin to a mansion, all because of a piece of rocky ground. So next time you think something is worthless, you remember little Sarah Rector. You never know what treasure is hiding right underneath your feet. Thanks for listening to an old woman's rambling. Now you go on and tell her story. Make sure nobody forgets the Queen of Muskogee. Don't forget to subscribe so you can come back and hear more stories from old Mama Ruth.